What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and only during this last week I realized that 4 years ago, almost to the day, on the 27th of May 2017, I made a false assumption, a misunderstanding, misinterpretation, a mistake that has ended up coloring part of my damage stat analyses over almost the entire stretch of my YouTube career following Rainbow Six Siege. In this video, I want to set the record straight, explain what happened, and provide updated and corrected info. The issue I will be addressing today is regarding Rook's armor plates. When I tested those for the very first time in 2017, this is how my analysis of the results went. But now what happens when you attach Rook armor to any of the 3 operator types? When I tested the damage reduction on different types of armor and different strike zones, I ended up with a fairly consistent damage reduction of between 0.78 and 0.84, with most of those results falling around 0.8 to maybe 0.82, and those minor variations will be down to the rounding that has to be applied simply because the game only deals in full damage points, not fractions. So the conclusion there is that the Rook armor plates add a damage multiplier of about 0.8, which is then applied over the top of all of the other multipliers we've already discussed. And when we then calculate the new damage multipliers for each armor type and each strike zone, we end up with these results. The damage multipliers for body shots are 0.8, 0.72 and 0.64. If you hit the legs, those go down to 0.6, 0.54 and 0.416. So essentially picking up an armor plate as a lightly armored operator turns you into a heavy. And if you're already wearing medium or heavy armor and you add a ballistic plate on top of that, well, let the carnage begin, right? And there it is. With my manual testing, I ended up with a range of damage multipliers spanning 6 percentage points that went all the way down to 0.78. Looking back at everything about the Rainbow Six damage system that was publicly known at that time, it might still seem reasonable to go with around about 20% damage reduction, but the simple fact is that this estimation has always been wrong. It's kind of a shame and a bit of an embarrassment that this went unnoticed and undetected for so long, especially since I went back and retested Rook armor several times over the years, once in my Rook vs Doc video of 2019, and then once again in my top 10 hidden abilities video of 2020. In my defense, in the 2020 video we just happened to test the multiplier with the P226 against a level 3 armor with limb shots at apparently just over 12 meters, and that resulted in unarmored damage of 24 points and armored damage of 19 points, and oh coincidence of coincidences, 0.8 times 24 is actually 19.2, which rounds down to our exact test result of 19. And you know, when I went back and checked this, my first thought was, hey, I was right after all, so there must have been a secret dastardly Rook plate nerf at some point in the last few seasons, and in fact, this video you're watching right now was actually supposed to be titled Secret Rook Nerf, Everything You Need to Know. But like I showed right in the beginning, I also went back to my very first damage model test video from 2017, and when I reviewed the test footage I included in that video, and the messy, rudimentary test notes that I still have from all the way back then, it became clear that no, this sadly wasn't some secret nerf. It was just that my initial conclusion had been wrong all along, and the footage from my 2020 video quite simply confirmed the wrong conclusion with off-the-cuff, poorly controlled testing. Yeah, now that I'm reading that out loud, it doesn't actually sound like a defense, does it? But, in my defense, over the years I was on several occasions in touch with Ubisoft developers who should have known the real multiplier and who were well aware of my public stat sheets and even told me that they used my sheet for quick references themselves, and they never seemed to notice the issue either. It's no excuse of course, but I guess at least I'm not the only one who missed the issue. So what is the actual Rook plate damage multiplier, and how did I not figure this out the first time? Well, something I found out a long time after running my first Rook plate tests is that in Rainbow Six Siege, fractional damage is always rounded down. Take for example the 41 points of baseline damage done by Zophia's LMGE and Thatcher's AR-33. When shooting at level 2 armor defenders, or attackers for that matter depending on your teammates, we have to multiply this damage stat with the 0.9 multiplier associated with that armor class, and mathematically speaking, that should result in 36.9 points of damage with each shot. But of course, as I've mentioned, everything is rounded down, and so the bullets only do 36 points of damage. What does this mean for my Rook plate multiplier estimation? Well, as you have probably been able to guess by now, my 0.78 to 0.84 multiplier range stemmed from the rounding down that occurs in the game, so in all of those cases the actual multiplier was 0.85, not the assumed average of around 0.8. And for literally 4 years now, this one mistake flew completely under the radar and has sadly wound its way into many of my stat analysis videos. Unfortunate. Hey, you know that it's Father's Day in only a few weeks, right? If you're still looking for gift ideas, then today's sponsor could be just the right thing for you, and it is of course longtime friends of the channel, Ridge Wallet. I've been using their wallets for years now, and the very first one I ever got, the 6061 T6 aluminium version, is the perfect balance of lightweight and durability. Check out the Father's Day guide by going to ridge.com/rogue9, that's ridge.com/rogue9, and use the limited time code DAD15 at checkout for a 15% discount, or if you're watching this video in future, use the code ROGUE9 for a 10% discount. So let me quickly walk you through what the stats should have been all these years. Here is the multiplier matrix I've always used for damage calculations, and when we switch in the corrected Rook plate stats, we end up with these numbers. What does this mean in terms of shots to kill? Well, my false conclusion has obviously meant a slight overestimation of Rook's actual damage reducing benefits, which has resulted in calculating one less short-range shot to kill in 22.99% of cases and 31.04% of cases at long range, with 2 cases of 2 less shots to kill required, specifically for Ella's Scorpion from 28 meters and onwards, and Caveira's Louison pistol at exactly 34 meters. But good news everyone, this error of course only applies to cases involving Rook plates, and so all other cases have always been correct, which cuts these error rates in half to 11.49% and 15.52% respectively, if we factor in the unarmored cases. A quick overview shows that against level 1 armor opponents, it's mainly the weaker DMRs, the low to mid-range assault rifles, 3 random SMGs, and 2 blocks of pistols that are affected at short range, and more mixed results, especially amongst the primary SMGs at longer ranges. Against level 2 armors, it's predominantly high to mid-range DMRs and rifles, and mid-ranged LMGs, machine pistols, SMGs and pistols that are affected, again with more mixed results at long range. And for level 3 armors, it's mostly the weaker LMGs, rifles and SMGs with a mixed bag of pistols affected, at least at short range. At long range, almost half of the guns are affected. And now that I've finally gotten to the bottom of the issue, we've had the announcement that armor multipliers are going to be removed from the game soon anyway. Not quite at the beginning of the next season, but the new and simplified system is already on the test servers, and it might interest you to know that these changes are not without consequences. There will be quite a few little buffs and nerfs coming if the system goes live this way. If you want me to make a video with a detailed breakdown on what the armor changes mean in practice, please let me know in a comment below. Of course, we won't quite know when the system will actually go live, but if there's any interest, I could do a little dive into the system as it stands on the test server right now. It's up to you. If you want to look into the improved error-free damage stats yourself and inspect the differences for Rook plates a little closer, feel free to check my public stat sheet. It is fully up to date, link in the description. And with that, many thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.
Make the ground shake.